Hello, y'all. Before we begin our presentation, we would like to do a land acknowledgement. As UC San Diego sits on the unceded territory and traditional homeland of the Kumeyaay people, we as members of the UC San Diego community must acknowledge the legacy of the Kumeyaay people. Please join us in a moment of silence to honor the original people of this land. Thank y'all.
And welcome everyone to the second episode of Cooking with the Cross. Today we are going to give you an overview of what the Cross Cultural Center is, then teach you all about how your diet affects the environment, and finally give you a healthy breakfast tutorial. Small disclaimer, we are using Google captioning, so what you see on the screen will not be 100% accurate.
The Outreach and Engagement Team. Hi, my name is Fatima. I'm a second year student at ERC and my major is clinical psychology, and I use she, her pronouns.
Hello, my name is Joycey Ito. My pronouns are she, her, hers. I'm a third year electrical engineering major in Six College. Here is our overview for today's video. We're going to do an about us, about the Cross Cultural Center. Then we'll get into how food affects the environment. Then we'll give you some campus resources you all can use. And finally, we will get to the breakfast. The Cross Cultural Center. So the Cross Cultural Center is one of 6 campus community centers under the Vice Chancellor of Equity, Diversity, and Inclusion.
The Cross Cultural Center. Although we're virtual at the moment, we are located in Price Center East on the second floor, right above Burger King. The CCC can be reached by our email, which is listed right there, or you can leave a voicemail at the number listed. However, we are most active on our social media, so to stay in the loop, I would recommend for y'all to check out our website or subscribe to our e-news.
Here is our social media that you all can follow. Here's our Instagram, Facebook, and YouTube at UCSD Cross Cultural Center for Instagram, facebook.com/UCSDCCC, and for our YouTube channel is tinyurl.com/CCC-YouTube. The bottom left shows a QR code that you all could scan, which will take you to our link tree, which provides you with all our social media, as well as our website and e-news. And there's the URL on the bottom right in case you cannot scan.
Virtual programs. At the CCC, we're very proud of our social justice and leadership efforts. One of the ways we promote these efforts is through our social justice webinars. During these webinars, we, the interns, facilitate dialogues with students, staff, and faculty from all over the UC San Diego community about different social justice topics. Next, our art receptions. Our virtual art receptions are hosted by the art and activism interns, and they showcase different art by Cutie BIPOC, queer, trans, Black, Indigenous people of color. And what's particularly cool about our art receptions the school year is that because we're virtual, we have been able to invite different artists from around the world. Our last art reception, we had invited a cool artist from Australia. And lastly, our student initiated programs, or SIPs. These are intern-led programs that relate to social justice and our major and or career. So my major is clinical psychology, and my SIP will be about the need for intersectionality in the field of psychiatry.
And my major is electrical engineering, and my SIP will be about the lack of social justice in engineering as well as just in the STEM field. Our affiliate program. So our affiliate program is a relationship between the center and student organizations. These student organizations have to fit within our place's philosophy, which stands for promoting respectful dialogue, leadership, affirmation of identities, community building, empowerment, all within a social justice lens. If you or you know anyone who are in organizations that fit within this philosophy and want to be part of our affiliate program, go ahead and sign up. We offer support and resources such as social justice workshops in case you want to teach your org about different social justice topics and other resources that you all can utilize.
Our Social Justice Leadership Academy. So we have a Social Justice Leadership Academy, abbreviated SJLA, which is a class that meets 6 times a quarter during winter or spring quarter. In this course, you will develop your communication skills, learn about social justice topics. This is really a great opportunity if you're interested in becoming an intern at the CCC or any other resource center. You may also get credit for this course on your co-curricular record, also known as your CCR, and this looks great on your resume or when you're applying to graduate school. And our internship program. The purpose of the internship program is to have an interactive cohort that facilitates better communication skills and leadership practices that include social equity, diversity, and inclusion. That's why even though there are many different positions, we are all social justice educators to assist in the promotion of social justice at the UCSD campus.
Now we will be getting on to how food affects the environment.
Up next, we will be showing y'all a Vox video called The Diet That Helps Fight Climate Change, hosted by M. Sanja. This video will show how our diet affects the environment and the research that was facilitated. Most of it was done at UC Davis.
It turns out what we put on our plates matters a lot.
About 25% of all the global climate change problems we're seeing can be attributed back to the food and the choices that we're actually making about what we eat on a daily basis. This is greater than all the cars on the planet. In fact, it's about twice as much global warming pollution as the cars.
Ben Holton and Maya Almaraz study the connection between climate and diet at the University of California, Davis. They track how the way we produce food creates greenhouse gases that contribute to global warming. With their data, the team has crunched the numbers to figure out how much carbon pollution is produced by different foods and different diets.
A lot of people feel really helpless when it comes to climate change, like they can't make a difference. And what our research is showing is that your personal decisions really can have a big impact.
So take that grass-fed ribeye steak I love. If you really look at everything that went into making a single serving of beef, you end up emitting around 330 grams of carbon. That's like driving a car 3 miles. Now, if I choose to have chicken instead, there's more than a 5-fold drop in emissions. Switch to fish, and you see the number go down even more. Now, look at veggies. If I swapped beef out entirely for lentils, well, I'm down to practically nothing. So why does beef, and lamb too for that matter, pack such a powerful punch to the planet? Livestock accounts for a little over 14% of global greenhouse gas emissions. If that sort of seems low to you, consider it's about equal to transportation. We're talking all the cars, trucks, planes, trains, and ships on the planet combined. This is partly because ruminant animals like cows and sheep, they're just gassy. And the methane they produce is at least 25 times more potent than carbon dioxide. Plus, it takes a lot of land, fertilizer, and about 1 billion tons of grain to feed all that livestock.
And you could feed 3.5 billion people with that grain. If we were just directly eating these grains ourselves, it would eliminate a lot of the CO2 that's emitted from cattle production.
So it's clear that meat has a pretty big carbon load. But it's also worth remembering that not all livestock is raised equally. In parts of the American West, for instance, ranchers are working to raise livestock in ways that actually help restore the land. And they're experimenting with ways that soil and grasslands can be used to keep carbon pollution out of the air. But even these sustainable ranchers will really tell you we're probably eating too much meat.
I know a lot of people who, if you don't serve them meat for lunch or dinner, they're kind of like, well, when is the meat coming out?
It's to the point now where the US actually has one of the highest meat footprints.
We hope this video gave y'all a good overview of how our diet affects the environment, and we are going to go more into depth. So up next, we have a chart that shows greenhouse emissions per kilogram for different food groups. This chart was adapted by Dr. Hannah Ritchie from the Our World data source, and this was the main data sources from Dr. Poor and Namek from a 2018 study called Reducing Food's Environmental Impact Through producers and consumers. And this chart and all this information can be found on carbonbrief.org. And what this chart shows is, again, how much greenhouse emissions are produced from different foods. So if we look at the very top, we can see that beef, particularly beef herd, the beef that we eat, produces the most amount of carbon, to a point in which all the other food groups don't even compare. Next, lamb and mutton, then cheese, and then beef, again, by dairy herds. So cows produce a lot of CO2 into the air. And if we were to change our diet and eat more fruits and vegetables, have which produce lower amounts of CO2, we could greatly help our environment. And up next, Joycey will explain what CO2 does to the environment and our health.
Yes, so as Fatima and the video said, food is the largest producer of CO2, carbon dioxide. It's not just from farming the food, it's also for processing, transporting, storing, cooking, and disposing the food you eat. And there are many health effects towards this, as you can see here. Exposure to carbon dioxide causes headaches, dizziness, restlessness, tingling feeling, difficulty breathing, increased sweating, increased tiredness, increased heart rate, elevated blood pressure, asphyxia, meaning lack of oxygen in your blood, and convulsions, which are seizures. Not only does carbon dioxide cause those health effects, it also causes climate change, speeds up the process of climate change. And what are the effects of climate change on the world? Well, it increases the temperature, it pollutes the air and water, and the sea levels rise. And how do these affect our communities? Higher temperatures excite chemical interactions that produce smog, which increases the risk of respiratory diseases. Toxic polluted air increases health issues and problems such as lung cancer, asthma, stroke, and cardiovascular diseases. When water is polluted, that means no clean water going to the communities. And there are also health effects such as kidney damage, bowel issues, and alarming rates of pregnancy effects, bad effects. And here we have the rising sea levels. So if the sea levels continue to rise, the land will just all be underwater. We will all be underwater. So this climate change affects us. The way we eat affects the climate, which affects us.
As Joycey said, our diet directly affects the environment. Here in this chart, we see how much certain diets sequester carbon. So starting with a vegan diet, which is the best for the environment, it sequesters more than 7 gigatons of carbon a year. Next is vegetarian. It sequesters more than 5 gigatons of CO2 a year, not as much as a vegan diet, but a vegetarian diet includes more. And then flexitarian is a diet that includes meat that sequesters the most carbon. And as we go down the list, you can see that each diet sequesters less carbon. And in the next slide, we're going to define and explain each diet. Starting with a vegan diet, that is a diet that is completely a plant-based diet.
Then we have a vegetarian diet, which is a diet of grains, vegetables, fruits, sugars, oils, eggs, and dairy. No meat.
Flexitarian, a diet in which 75% of the meat and dairy is replaced by cereals and pulses. Cereals and pulses, they're a specific type of grain. It's very seedy. If you've ever seen it, it's like little brown seeds. Anyways, this includes at least 500 grams of fruit and vegetables and at least 100 grams of plant-based proteins per day, and no more than 1 portion of red meat a week.
Then we have a healthy diet, which is a diet based on global dietary guidelines, which involves eating less meat and more fruits and vegetables.
Next is the fair and frugal diet, a diet assuming that food is shared equally across the world, which each person is consuming 2,800 calories a day. This involves a relatively low level of animal products.
And a pescatarian, which is a vegetarian diet that includes seafood.
And a climate carnivore, a diet where 75% of red meat is replaced with other meat.
And finally, we have the Mediterranean diet, which is a diet of vegetables, fruits, grains, sugars, oils, eggs, dairy, seafood, and moderate amounts of poultry, pork, lamb, and beef. You probably never heard of a flexitarian before. I know I haven't. So here we will be giving you what their 3-day meal plan would look like.
For breakfast, you could have sprouted whole grain toast, avocados on top, spinach, and eggs.
For lunch, you could have something called a kale ranch bowl, which can include chicken or chickpeas, plus chopped kale or tomatoes, roasted sweet potato cubes, and a ranch dressing.
And for dinner, tacos, seasoned white fish or lentils, corn tortillas, cabbage slaw, guacamole, and salsa. And here below are more meal plan ideas. We won't read them out, but below in our YouTube description, we will have them listed out. Up next, CalFresh. So CalFresh is California's Supplemental Nutrition Assistance Program. They provide up to $204 a month in grocery benefits. For more information, check out the basicneeds.ucsd.edu or contact one of the CalFresh outreach assistants at calfresh.ucsd.edu. And right below, there is a QR code that will take you directly to their website. And to the right and to the left, there are the logos. To the right, the CalFresh logo, and to the left, the Basic Needs Center. So if you see these logos anywhere on campus, maybe investigate what's going on because they are always helpful.
If you explore the website more, you will find out about another resource called the Triton Food Pantry. This is a place on campus where you could get free groceries. So go ahead and check that out. And finally, we get to our breakfast videos, what we think are healthy breakfasts. So for my breakfast, I made a cinnamon apple oatmeal. And this is what I used: microwavable oats, apples, unsalted butter, brown sugar, and cinnamon. Just those ingredients. And we get the cinnamon apple oatmeal. So first I slice my apples, and then I'm gonna saute my apples in the butter and add brown sugar to it. Okay, I know I said a small amount of cinnamon, but I low-key put a lot. So yeah, it's like, caramelizing the apples. And here are my microwavable oats, 1/3 cup, and then you put 1 cup of water. And then I microwaved it. This is what the package said. And there is my oatmeal. It was very delicious. Loved it.
For my healthy breakfast idea, I made egg frittata and breakfast potatoes. So for the egg frittata, all you need is eggs, cheese, broccoli, onions, and spinach. And you can add more vegetables if you like. And then for the breakfast potatoes, I used regular potatoes, sweet potatoes, salt, paprika, and black pepper. So this is vining spinach. And this is bushy spinach. So there's many different kinds of spinach. And I just use the spinach that was in my recipe. Next, we need a plate of vegetables. Add juice. So I like to put it in the oven, but you don't have to. You can also just cook it over the stove. And this is what it looks like when it's all done. And this is what it looks like when it's all done. And then you can make yourself a nice plate. Here's my plate.
I just want to say that your cooking tutorial looks so good. And I would also like to point out that both of our breakfast foods were basically a vegetarian diet. And we both are not vegetarian, but it is that easy to incorporate the vegetarian diet, even a vegan diet, or just that healthier diet into what you eat every day. And through that, we could help save the environment.
This concludes this week's episode of Cooking with the Cross. Week 9, we are releasing our final episode of Cooking with the Cross for this quarter. Please check it out. It will be about microwavable meal ideas and destigmatizing the food we eat. The information that we gathered today, the sources are listed below just in case y'all want to check it out and learn more about it. And the slide deck that we are using is by SlidesGo, just in case y'all ever need a cute slides deck for your projects.
And be sure to like and subscribe to our YouTube channel and also follow all our social media accounts. And if you love this video and you're thinking to yourself, wow, I want to be part of this community, the internship application for the Cross Cultural Center will be opening up soon. So be on the lookout for that and join our community.